it's week 0 in college football. I can't believe it. It's back already. We're all happy. We got Florida State. We got Georgia Tech in Ireland, and we're going to talk about it here on the 5-Star Flex. I brought my man Michael Langford from warchant.com. He's going to tell us about Florida State, how he sees the game going, and also the game from a recruiting perspective. My man Naj Wilk from allyellowjacketsi.com will be on to talk about the same things from a Georgia Tech perspective. Oh yeah, it's a loaded show. College football is back. I can't be more excited. Let's go. It is week 0, and the biggest game is Florida State and Georgia Tech. In order for us to get a kind of Florida State perspective on how this game can affect recruiting, I brought in one of the best in the business, Mr. Michael Langston, here on the 5-Star Flex. Big Mike, how you doing?
Phillip, I'm phenomenal. I'm so happy, and I'm kind of getting used to it. As I was telling my wife yesterday, FSU's got a game this week. Yeah,
Right.
it's like you're not even thinking about that. This time. So it's exciting times. Certainly an exciting team. I know they're really excited in Tallahassee about this FSU team. So yeah, ready to get it going.
Right. So the excitement about this FSU team, how does this really impact recruiting having a game so early and being the game this week?
I think it's a big plus for FSU because it's from a national brand. They've never had a national like foreign brand where you're playing over in Ireland. I think there's been times where they played Notre Dame where it's a national thing, but I think overall just having all eyes on you is something that Mike Norvell loves. He loves people seeing his practice. He loves seeing how they run stuff. So from a recruitment standpoint, I think it's a big boom because you're the focus of this week. You're the guy team that people are going to see, and you have a chance to prove yourself that hey, it isn't just a 2 or 3 year thing. This is going to be one that's crescendoing up higher every year. And I think they have a really big opportunity to really catch the attention of just about every recruit in the country that yes, this isn't something that's just a flash in the pan, guys. Like they are that good. There's a reason they went 13-0. There's a reason they were top 5 in the country last year, and I think this stage gives them an opportunity to really shine.
Are there any upcoming commitments from FSU targets that you think this game may have a little bit of ability to help sway their decision?
I think you have some already. Obviously, 2 4-star running backs in Usman Chromo and also Byron Lewis out of Miami or Fort Lauderdale. That I know there's no doubt they're going to be watching this game to see just kind of how this team looks because a lot of people when they feel it when they look at FSU, they think of just this widespread spread type offense or passing all the time, but FSU under Norvell is really strong as far as the running game. So I think they'll have a chance to showcase that with some new blood out there where Trey Benson going to the pros. I think this is a chance for them to really show that to them. So I think from the running back standpoint, I think for me that's kind of going to be a big deal for those two guys because those are two of their top prospects. They could decide and either the start of the year or later in the year, maybe in September or so. So this kind of opportunity for this game, I think those two guys are certainly going to be watching very closely. You also have all the commits that they have that kind of just want to see what this team's going to look like, and then you have some guys that are committed to other schools, Philip, that are certainly going to be watching. Just what the FSU program looks like. What does this part of FSU looks like? How did these transfers do? Because they added a lot of transfers as far as on this class, and a lot of them are some of their top players. So I think that's going to be a big deal of just recruits nationally really watching not just uncommitted guys, but guys committed to other schools that I think FSU feels there's a legit shot to flip.
Speaking of flip candidates, can
Yeah.
you take me through a couple of guys that Florida State is really keeping a close eye on?
Yeah, there's certainly are several ones. 4-star DB Tony Williams is one that jumps out to me out of UCF or committed to UCF. He's been to FSU's campus several times. I think everyone's seen kind of the job that what Patrick Surtain's already done. With this dynamic group of defensive backs they already have this year. I know they're very excited about that class. I think another one you have certainly that is on the radar that we that you consistently hear about from my views is offensive lineman Max Buchanan's another one that they previously recruited throughout the year. He's committed to Miami, but FSU certainly not giving up on that one. And I think the position probably that I'm most focused on would flip guys would be the linebacker position. Four-star linebacker Tavion Wallace surprised a lot of people when he picked Arkansas. I think that's one to really keep that I'll be keeping an eye on. I think another four-star linebacker in TJ Alford out of Vero Beach. FSU already has a commitment from his teammate EJ White, who's in the 2026 class. So those are two guys that I definitely have circled very highly that you could see FSU pull that one. So there's several in the picture. There's also Jalen Wiggins, a local prospect that they're certainly going to make a push for. He's committed to Florida. So I think a lot of this class remaining that you see, I think is going to be flip candidate type of guys. So I think those are just some of the guys that I've heard that I'm definitely heavily got my eyes on as far as throughout the year of how FSU can change it, because I think once they get these kids on campus and the season starts and it kind of begins this weekend with FSU playing Georgia Tech, that once that picks up, we've seen it every year where once FSU gets their season going, the momentum really starts to kick in as far as the way recruits view this program.
Do you think that momentum starting against Georgia Tech, and as the season progresses, you see Florida State become that team that is not a flash in the pan, as you said earlier.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a chance that Florida State can get back in it with a five-star Josh Petty, who's committed to Georgia Tech?
Yeah, that's tricky, but I definitely think it will help. Will it do enough to push you over the top? I'm not sure, but certainly if you go out there and you'll have a very impressive performance, and say Georgia Tech isn't quite as impressive, I definitely think it will impact him in a certain way. Now, will it be enough? I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that went into his recruitment that go along with NIL to production on the field, but anytime a kid sees a production on the field or lack thereof on one side or the other, I think it always impacts things of kind of the decision and getting back into it, Phillip. So I think it's definitely a possibility. Is it likely? Probably not, from my perspective. But is it a possibility? Certainly.
Right now, Florida State is right outside of the top 10 when it comes to the team rankings.
Hmm.
Where do you think this class ends up ultimately as far as the rankings go?
Yeah, that's something I've discussed a lot. That I felt like obviously there's no question the month of this month wasn't great for FSU. If you look at a lot of the decisions that came down that they missed on guys, but as I told people, man, look at the class as a whole, just what they've already done. I think it's going to be inside that top 10, Philip. When you look at the on three team rankings, I think the things I've discussed of guys that they could potentially flip or potentially just add that haven't committed anywhere. I think it's certainly one that I can see at a top 10 class or just inside that top 10. Tend to sit a little more inside the top 10, maybe 7 or 8. But overall, I think now if you pushed a few buttons and you got some really heavy flips, then I think it could be even higher than that. But I think 7 or 8 is kind of where I sit.
That would actually still be a success considering, as far as where Florida State came from previous to the Norvell era. Like
Right.
that, those consistent top 10 classes is exactly what you need to put Florida State where they want to be. Speaking of this game in particular, we're gonna kind of shift momentum a little bit.
Okay.
What true freshman do you think will have a chance to gain snaps in this game?
Phew, man. It that can be tricky. But a guy that I really like, that I've loved, even as a true freshman, is LaWayne McCoy out of Miami Central, 4-star
Mm,
wide receiver. I love when I watch their practice, and I'll be honest, guys, I'm not at practice all the time. So when I went to see them, he really just jumped out to me. That really stood out. Another guy that not even like a true freshman, but he's a freshman that he hasn't played yet. KJ Kirkland out of Jacksonville Reigns. He
mm.
is one that's really always stood out to me. I mean, watch him the last few years. I think he had an injury a year ago, but he's a guy that on the defensive side, I think he's going to be really truly special. Another guy guys haven't seen is KJ Sampson, former 4-star defensive tackle that out of the North Carolina area. I think he has been a guy that I've been waiting to just explode onto the picture. I think Micaiah Danzy, probably one of the fastest players in the whole country. He's a true freshman running back. I think they probably have like 6, 7 backs on that roster. I mean, that is a loaded group of running backs. I think you could see him flash, some this year. So there's a lot, but those are kind of ones that just jump out to me, Philip.
All right. And in that same vein, I want to kind of hit on some of the transfer portal guys that came in,
Oh yeah.
excluding DJU.
Okay. Yeah, the main guy that jumped out to me the first time I saw it wasn't DJU, and DJ was good, but was Malik Benson out of
Mm,
Alabama. He has been lights out from what I saw. I mean, if you're looking for a wide receiver one, at least on my opinion, that's the guy that's probably going to take the mantle. He's been phenomenal ever since he arrived early in the spring. He's been incredibly, you know, dominant as far as when I watched him. Just an explosive playmaker, and Mike Norvell always says, "Hey, it's built for playmakers," and I know for
mhm.
him, it was certainly built for him. Another guy that I would say Philip probably was my favorite transfer portal guy they added was Jalen Lucas that they got from Indiana.
Okay.
He is kind of a Swiss Army knife where you'll see him on kick returns, you'll see him on punt returns, but that's kind of what you saw with Indiana. But I think with FSU, you're going to see a lot more just him in the slot, him in the different lined up at different places. And this time, I'm telling you guys, if you're an FSU fan, you haven't watched kind of War Chant or breaking down stuff, like this guy's going to really excite you. He'll catch your breath because he is so lightning quick in space. Got incredible speed, and he has also had a really good. I think since he's got here to practice, he has been a dynamic playmaker that I think you'll hear a lot. I think that's a guy that certainly will jump out a lot. They certainly have a lot of talented defensive linemen that they've added from the portal. We've seen, a lot of those guys. I love the Lololeye guy from Oregon State. Oh my gosh,
Mhm.
Philip, that guy's right up your alley. You watch him, you turn on the tape, you just fall in love of just how explosive this guy. So he'll add a lot, I think, to that defensive front. And those are just a few, but those kind of jump out to me outside of DJU. I think a lot of people have seen kind of what he can do and why they added and why he was added to this class. But I think overall it's one of their best portal classes I've seen, Philip, as far as when you talk about the wide variety of guys that they've added at positions, not just it isn't just like one position it's that load up on. I mean, they really hit on just about every position that you need. That was a hole for FSU.
Michael, great stuff. But before we get out of here,
Okay.
you got to let me know, how do you see this game playing out?
Yeah, it's going to be tricky because we all know when you play the first games, it's going to be sloppy. Doesn't matter who you are. There's going to be some sloppiness, and then how does it affect kids playing at Dublin, Ireland for the first time? I know our groups over
Mm,
there, War Chant, covering it. It's a different stadium, almost like a soccer stadium. So how quickly those guys adjust? I personally think it's going to be like it'll be close early on in the game. Then I think the overall depth of the talent, because I've talked about that many times. This is probably the most talented Mike Norvell as far as from a depth perspective of talent across the board consistently, where you have really good guys that you can rotate consistently over and over. Maybe not the total elite guys like Jared Verse and those type of guys, or Trey Benson, or even Keon Coleman, but you have a lot of great players. So it depth wise, it's probably his best team. So I think it eventually the depth will wear on him, and FSU will start to take control probably in maybe in the first half. But I like FSU to kind of pull away a little bit in this game, maybe 31-20 or 31-17. But I think certainly Georgia Tech has improved a lot as far as what you see from them on the last few seasons. I think last year they really kicked it in after they got that fortunate interesting situation with Miami in that
Right.
game. But I feel like they were playing better. So I definitely think it's an improved product with Brent Key over there. But certainly FSU, I just think has way too many weapons of how they can attack you. But I think it will be a fun game to watch, and it will be close early on. And that's just kind of how I see kind of how the game developing.
Michael, you absolutely killed it. Thank you so
Appreciate it.
much for coming on. Where can everybody find you and all of this great information that you have on social media? And of course, you're at warchant.com.
Yeah, my Twitter account is at Michael Warchant, and then our regular account is at Warchant. Just type it in, and you can find us there. You can go to a front page, guys. I just did a mock prediction class of the whole class of how I think it's going to end up right now. So you can go there and check that out. There's a lot of great things. Our team is over there in Ireland. Like I said, they got wall-to-wall coverage on all what's going on, getting ready for the prep for Ireland. So definitely check it out. Want to give a shout out to my boy Phillip for just letting me on. It was fun. I had fun time. This is great. And if you haven't subscribed to On3, guys, it's the time to get it. I mean, national coverage, whatever you need. Team, we have some of the best team sites. So if you haven't joined, man, check it out. Give it a try. I guarantee you, you'll like what you see.
As part of the 5-Star Flex Week 0 kickoff show, I've already talked to Florida State. You know I had to bring on somebody from Georgia Tech. I've got one of the hottest writers, one of the upcoming guys in the city of Atlanta, who covers the Yellow Jackets for All Yellow Jackets SI and also works really closely with Inside the Hashes, Mr. Naj Wilt. Naj, what's going on?
What's going on, Dukes, man? Appreciate you having me on the show, man.
Now, for sure. Let's jump right into it. Florida State, Georgia Tech, huge game, Week 0. The entire world will be watching as this is an international game. How big do you think playing in this game will be for the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets when it comes to recruiting some of these guys across the country?
Oh, it's huge, man. Everybody's going to be tuned into this game. They want to see what Georgia Tech can do. As you guys can see, the line is starting to move. Early on, it was 11.5. It is at 10.5 now, the line. So I think people are starting to say, hey, man, this is a game we got to tune into. Georgia Tech, it's not going to be an easy out when it comes to this one. So in terms of recruiting, a lot of people are tuned in. Josh Petty's one of them. He said, man, I can't wait to see what Georgia Tech can do up against Florida State. That's one of the games I'm watching. I'm excited to see the Yellow Jackets go out there and get the dub. So that's one of the recruits I talked to. And it just does a lot. When you land your first 5-star in the modern era, the first one since Calvin Johnson in 2004, and you're able to kind of create that momentum, and then you bring in this great offensive line class that has 4 3-stars according to the On3 industry rankings, that does a lot for you, going forward. And if Georgia Tech hangs in this game and they make some noise, they're going to bring even more guys. And they already got some guys on Flip Watch right now.
So speaking of Flip Watch, one of the guys that Georgia Tech did a really good job recruiting was interior offensive lineman and 4-star Peyton Joseph, who's committed to Florida State. What type of opportunity is this for Georgia Tech to make an impression on Peyton Joseph and maybe see if they can pull out the spatula on him?
What you can tell Peyton is, hey, come be a part of the change. Come be a part of our culture. Stay home and make sure you're part of a brand that's starting to build here in the state. Be a part of kind of the old Georgia Tech where we was playing for championships. We was playing for big-time games and things like that, instead of going to Florida State. Come be a part of something special. And in this class also with you, you're going to have 3 to 4 other guys that are noteworthy. Justin Hassenhuddle, Damola Ajudahan, and obviously Josh Petty. coming in as well, and also Jimmy Bryson. So you got guys that can come in along with yourself, and you can build and grow. And another thing to note too that they could point out in their recruitment when they talk to Peyton Joseph, they have 2 seniors on this offensive line coming up on Saturday. So with those guys coming in, this is their final year. Georgia Tech's going to have to fill in some spots on that offensive line when it comes next year.
Who are some recruits that Georgia Tech possibly has on the ropes that this game may be able to sway, or they may be able to close the deal if they have a really strong performance?
I'm going to be honest with you, Dukes. I'm going to say Christian Garrett. That's one they're trending towards right now. And think about the win that Brent Key and staff has had, right? You nab him from in-state rival Georgia, right? Georgia is a program that Brent Key says, hey, man, this is a rivalry. I hate them. I do not like them. He said that on the record. So that goes to show you, and he's already getting those small in-state victories. This is a 4-star recruit Georgia was very high on. Got him decommit. He's very high on the program. And if you go and can beat Florida State, it's the same kind of thing. They got Zeke Biggers, right, coming in. He's a senior. Same kind of group. That defensive line group got 2 seniors that's starting to Saturday. Now you can tell Christian Garrett, hey, man, we're going to need your help on this defensive line as you kind of retool and kind of look at the roster a little bit. You can come in here and potentially earn some playing time early on in your playing career. So that is one to watch for. Also, Blake, make sure I get his name right. Blake Berlin is another one from Cardinal Hayes. That's the 3-star. That's another guy they're trying to get as well to come in. He's amongst their top 5. Georgia Tech is for him. So those are a couple guys they're trying to get in on the defensive line. As you can see, their class is really good, 22 recruits right now, but they really want to shore up that defensive line group, especially with so many seniors being on there. But if you come out and have a good performance against that dominant rushing attack with Wardell Williams, right, Cam Davis, and company, this is a really deep running back core. If you can kind of make some noise with that, and you tell the next recruits, come be a part of something special.
What has Brent Key done to turn around the fortunes of Georgia Tech recruiting in your eyes?
I think it's really simple. I think it's relationships, right? Relationships with these coaches, relationships with these players, relationships with these families. And what Key is doing is very smart. He's partnered with several different brands, one being the Corky Kale. He has a 7-on-7 there. The first year they had it, he handed out easily over 30-plus offers. I mean, when you can get the kids in state, and we know how talent-rich the Georgia state is in producing talent. I mean, every single year they're having at least 2 or 3 guys that are 5-stars, right? So when you have guys that are on your campus, they're in your back door, and you're able to see them up close and personal, that goes a long way when you're recruiting these key skill positions like DB, which they've done an outstanding job with this class, with wide receiver, quarterback, and things like that. And I think Key's just making it simple for these guys that are in state. He's saying, hey, man, come be a part of a program that is on the rise. You see what we did last year. We were 7-6. Our best record since 2018 under head coach Paul Johnson with the same identical record. And we are a part of the change. And I think that's where it starts first for him. Obviously, he's got some guys out of state with his class. Obviously, from Deer Creek, Grady Adamson, the quarterback. But what Key is hitting on, of this 22 that he has, Dukes, 16 are from in the state of Georgia. So he's doing an outstanding job recruiting these guys from in the Peach State.
So speaking of Josh Petty and speaking of high-profile targets, Georgia Tech in recent memory hasn't been seen as this NIL juggernaut. Well, now Pete Nakos of On3 comes out with this report, and it talks about Josh Petty agreeing to a collective deal with Georgia Tech where he, is rumored to be around $800,000 a year. What type of impact do you think that news has had on other recruits when considering Georgia Tech?
I mean, it's huge. Georgia Tech already has an NIL fund that is, set up for this, that has $1 million already allocated to it. The thing is, people don't talk about it a lot because obviously it's always Georgia Tech. Like, we don't know how good they're going to be. We don't know if they're in NIL, but they have this fund for these players, and they set up different opportunities for them throughout this NIL fund that they have set up. They're setting up partnerships so that everybody on the team can get paid, whether you're a star or you're not, right? I remember seeing a deal a couple years ago they had set up with this brand, and everybody on the team was getting paid. No, it wasn't lucrative money, but you were still putting some extra money in your pocket. That goes a long way. But then when recruits can see, hey, wow, you landed 5-star Josh Petty, you got him to come to your program and you're paying him this. You might not make the same thing necessarily, but you might be like, oh, okay, if I go there, I could potentially make a little bit of money and help out my family. I could potentially, do a little bit better for myself on the side. And the whole thing with Georgia Tech and another allure I think they have is the connections. The academics, I think it's like 1 in 5 end up becoming a millionaire, So that is huge. When you have the NIL part of it, and then you have the connections aspect of it as well, and then you can go and meet different Fortune 500 CEOs, and the academic rigor is tough. It's just going to only help you not only on the field, but also in life off the field.
All right, let's pivot to the actual game. What true freshman do you think will make an impact for Georgia Tech in Ireland?
That's such a good question. See, the thing is, the depth chart got released, right? And there was not a lot of true freshmen that, was in that starter position. Georgia Tech got really a lot of that last year, right? When you look at Errol Singleton Jr., was an All-American last year. Obviously, Jamal Haynes stepping into a new role as the running back. But two names I want you to keep an eye on, Dukes. Okay. Luke Harpring. He's not starting, but he went to Marist here in Atlanta. Remember, they made the semifinals last year. He is third on the depth chart. Recently, Brett Seether tore his ACL, or I don't know if he tore his ACL. He had an ACL injury. He's out for the year, right? So that means Avery Boyd is going to step up. Then you have Jackson Halsey, who comes over from Yale. Harpring is the third guy, on that spot. So he's a guy that could potentially, maybe not week one, but as you go into like kind of the middle of the season, he could potentially have an impact, early on for the Georgia Tech offense, because they're going to need their tight ends, right? Got an elite receiving core, I think, humbly, with Christian Leary, Eric Singleton Jr., and Leo Blackburn and all them, but you're going to need a guy to step up. Another name to know, Dukes, is Anthony Carey, right? This guy, he's number 3 on the depth chart, but you never know, right? Jamal Haynes is going to need a couple spills in there. I think Georgia Tech this year has that depth. When you look at from top to bottom, Jamal Haynes starting, obviously Trey Cooley at number 2, the veteran presence, he is a senior, right? And then you look at Anthony Carey beating out Chad Alexander for that third spot. So it's all going to be in the design of Buster Faulkner, how he decides to use these guys. Will he trust them early on offensively? I think that is going to be key as well for the Yellow Jackets. Another name he is not starting, but obviously Warren Burrell, the transfer, is going to start. But a name you could see getting a playing time early on for the Yellow Jackets this season is Cedric Franklin from Cale. He impressed a lot in the spring. His name got brought up a lot. Leo Blackburn brought him up. Obviously, his head coaches brought him up as well. That's a name that really impressed a lot of guys. So that's another name you might see. Hey, a slot guy. Hey, later on down the line, he could be starting due to injury or anything like that. Those are 3 names I would say, Dukes, to keep an eye on.
All right. We're going to bring it home here. Tell me how you think this game goes and end it with the score prediction.
Man, so I think it's imperative for Georgia Tech to get out to a hot start. Go ahead and get up on Florida State early. You really, what you want to make this game, you don't want to let Florida State throttle you, right? You don't want it to be the Wardell Williams show, right? You don't want them to be able to lean on that rushing attack and that dominant offensive line I think has over 200-plus appearances collectively. Like, you don't want that. So if you're Georgia Tech, you're Haynes King, hold on to the football, take care of the football, lean on that rushing attack with Jamal Haynes and those good receivers that you got on the outside, get an early lead in this game, play smash mouth football, let your defense play ahead with a lead, and let them get after it and make DJ Ugarte beat you. Not saying he can't. Obviously, he played for ACC, played for Clemson. He went to Oregon State, did his thing. But that is kind of the formula if you want to kind of beat Florida State in this one, in my humble opinion. I think it's going to turn out. I think Georgia Tech, is going to have the upset. I think they go in there on the road or in Ireland. I got them a 7-point victory. They get a touchdown at the end, about 2 minutes or so left. I'm going to go 28-21. Yellow Jackets win the game. They make a statement in front of the national audience, national media on ESPN, and shows, hey, we here to play. We here coming for that ACC crown. So I got them coming out on top.
Naj Wilt, man, great job, man. Good to see you. Where can everybody find you on social media?
Yes, sir. So, y'all can find me on social media at Najee Wilk, NAJEHWILK. I'm on all platforms, man. X, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. Y'all can follow me there. And before we wrap up and Duke wraps up the show, I want to give Phillip Dukes a special shout out. I don't think he hears this enough, so I want to be the one to say it, man. He is an inspiration to me and several others, how he's trailblazing, how he goes about his business, and just what he's being able to do. And he's on fire right now, and he inspires guys like me, obviously Bacon Network, Inside the Hash, and several other journalists in this industry that want to come up. So, Dukes, keep doing your thing, man, and you doing awesome, and you really motivate and inspire us, man.
Much appreciated, my dog. Let's do it again at the next Big Georgia Tech game.
Let's do it.